Good morning. Please join in our opening hymn, number 118. This little light of mine, number 118. Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. I'm your worship associate, Jim O'Neill, and it's a joy to be with you today. For those new to our community, we are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. Please look to your weekly email for announcements. I'm also going to particularly welcome back to our community Liz Trotter. It's so good to see you. And you made it. Wonderful. What a delight. So we're also delighted to welcome back to our pulpit Reverend Jane Mauldin, graduated from Meadville Lombard, our Unitarian Universalist seminary in Chicago years ago. In the following decades, she served UU congregations in Oregon, Nebraska, Alabama, and Louisiana. Jane was also the hospital chaplain at Toro Infirmary for 12 years, retiring from that position 3 years ago. She was the founding minister of the North Shore UU congregation, and then returned to serve that congregation as their consulting minister for 7 years. She retired from the North Shore congregation in 2022, August, which has freed up her time to enjoy her 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Also to create mosaic art and to dig and plant in her uptown butterfly garden. Jane is delighted to be back with us today. She also serves our congregation when pastoral care is requested by our church leadership.
The opening words are by the Reverend Barbara Wells. O spinner, weaver of our lives, your loom is love. May we who are gathered here be empowered by that love to weave new patterns of truth and justice into a web of life that is strong, beautiful, and everlasting.
It is our custom to light a chalice, invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join us in singing the words of chalice lighting, which are printed in your order of service.
Light this flame to offer the light of truth and love, and the hope and the unity, and the fire of hope
And now Reverend Jane will lead us in our time for all ages.
Well, good morning, you all. It is so good to be back. So where did my responsive reading go? Thank you, Sean. Oh, it takes a village to get a minister through a service. The responsive reading is especially relevant for us right now at this time in our nation's life, as we remember who we are as Unitarian Universalists in our time. Please join me for the responsive reading that is printed on an insert in your order of service. First, they came for trans people, and I spoke up.
because God does not make mistakes.
They came for African Americans, and I spoke up.
Because I am my sister's and my brother's keeper.
And then they came for women, and I spoke up.
Because women hold up half the society.
And then they came for immigrants, and I spoke up.
Because I remember the ideals of our democracy.
And then they came for Muslims and Jews, and I spoke up.
Because they are my cousins, and we are one human family.
And then they came for Native Americans, and I spoke up.
Because the blood-soaked land cries, and the mountains weep.
They keep coming. We keep rising up because we know the cost of silence. We keep rising up to answer together the call of love. And when we work together in love, all things are possible. Amen. Let us sing to the children of the world. The first reading is by an activist woman, Janan Matari, and she wrote this letter to the New York Times in January of 2017, 2 weeks after Donald Trump was sworn in as president in January of 2017. She wrote, "Let's talk identity politics. I don't have a single label. I'm a woman, I'm Muslim, I'm Arab, I'm Latina. Every one of those labels has become some type of political identity that leads me to support those in power whose policies keep my rights protected. What happens when the newly elected government threatens your identities and your rights? Because I do not fit the mold of white Christian all-American girl next door, I, and many people like me who are considered diverse, have been tagged as less important. and our rights and safety concerns have been pushed aside by our new president with every executive order he signs. People like me are actually larger in number than you may think. The millennial generation is said to be the most diverse in our history, with 43% of us being non-white. It has been less than 2 weeks under Donald Trump's America, and he has already taken steps to bar many Muslims from entering the United States, deport illegal immigrants, reinstate the abortion gag rule, have a wall built on the Mexican border, and reconsider the Dakota Access Pipeline. Since the executive order on Muslims was signed, I've personally faced discriminatory comments from my fellow citizens, such as, "She needs to go," and "Arrest them, jail them for terrorism, then deport them." America has a dark and shameful history when it comes to providing those fleeing persecution and war with safety and security. As a Muslim woman, I've heard things like, "Muslim feminist is an oxymoron." I've been made to feel like an outsider in my own place of birth, and am being threatened with some fantasized cleansing of America of people of my faith. So what can we do? We need to fight back. We need to demand different policies. Together, we can prove that it's not about the power of the government, but the power of the people that can make a change. Thus ends the reading. So this morning, with all that's happening in the world, and with Trump about to be sworn back in as president, and with the devastation in California, which is pointing out the horrific insurance policies inflicted on many people, among many other things, I honor that we come together to remember who we are. And in doing that, let us lift up those things that are held deepest in our hearts this morning. So I'm asking you to consider 4 things that may be weighing on your heart. That of which you are afraid, that which makes you angry, that which gives you hope, and that or who you love. So this morning, consider what you are afraid of. And if you are willing to share that, it is a gift to everyone else here as we remember together who we are and how we are going to face the years to come. So let's start with the big one, fear. Of what are you afraid? And
Wants to speak up. I'm afraid of Elon Musk and what that stands for.
I'm afraid of Trump and Elon and the next 4 years.
I'm afraid of losing our precious democracy.
I'm afraid of the media stoking everything to be worse. I don't know if people are aware, but the assistant DA, one of them here, was found shot in the head in his office. And they barely reported it at all. They just went back to the terror coverage. And
I'm afraid for my rights and my future as a woman. afraid of massive deportation of undocumented workers. I'm afraid of Germany 1930s 2.0 in America.
I'm afraid of the suffering that will be inflicted upon those that think they're righteous to make those decisions and do so.
I'm afraid that soon we won't be able to afford anything, and just living a basic life will be prohibitively expensive for most people.
Let us move on now to that which makes us angry. That deep place in your gut that cries out in the night, that anger that you're carrying right now. What is it that makes you angry?
I'm angry that fear and hatred and mistrust are now being taught and encouraged instead of discouraged. And I really hope it stops.
I'm angry that the world that we're leaving for our children and grandchildren will be much harder than the one we grew up in and lived in.
I'm angry that we place such little importance on individuals and instead just worship money.
I'm angry that we're becoming an oligarchy and that we're going to be split between the rich and the poor.
I'm angry about attempts to erode the separation of church and state.
I'm angry with the people who are in power who know better and say nothing.
I'm angry at the base of MAGA, the Christian evangelical white.
I'm angry that being in medicine for 42 years, I've seen the praise of insurance companies and their ability to murder those of us in nursing homes, those that can't speak out for themselves, the homeless people, the mentally ill, or mentally aware, I call them, that these insurance companies are able to make money with murder. And nobody seems to care. Nobody's fighting them. It's very sad.
I'm angry at the denial of climate change and in spite of all the evidence.
I'm angry that a group has formed called the New Apostolic Reformation, whose mission it is to make the United States one religious community. I learned about it recently in the New Atlantic, in the Atlantic magazine. There's an article about it.
I'm angry that the lies are not being challenged.
I'm also very angry at the New Apostolic Reformation. It's a Zionist entity that is pushing an apocalypse cult, and they think that if they can get the quote unquote tribe of Israel back into the Holy Land, that they can trigger the second coming of Christ and the apocalypse. And it's an apocalypse cult, which is why they have constant access to weapons, because the evangelical Christian right runs the weapons companies, and they apparently run the media too, because nobody brings up the genocide.
I don't know if this is hate, and some of you may struggle, but I'm very angry at some of my friends who support Trump, and it's hard to deal with sometimes.
Let us move on. Holding all of that, we're holding that is real and true. And yet there's this little light called hope. And let us now reflect on that which we truly hope for. Hope is not blind. Hope is not ignorant. Hope is based in our real lives and gives us light through all of this. What is it that you hope for?
I'm hopeful about all the responses to tragedy in Los Angeles, here in New Orleans, even from victims themselves who've lost everything. It has been very moving to watch how people are in solidarity.
I am hopeful that as we gather here today, we are all like-minded in the sense that we want good, we want fairness. And I'm hopeful that each drop of kindness that we send out in our everyday lives, that kindness, that drop will spread. And I'm praying that that makes the difference.
I'm hopeful that the spirit of President Jimmy Carter, that we will remember. President Jimmy Carter and Madame Rosalynn and I were friends. Every time they came to New Orleans, they volunteered in my soup kitchens, and I remember them. And I hope that legacy the Americans will remember when decency was prevalent. Thank you.
I'm hopeful for my generation, for we are not afraid to speak out against the injustice that is happening, and will continue to do so as we come into positions of power that we so desperately need.
And now, one more? Okay.
Something that brings me immense hope is that we stand to gain the most from the collapse of the system, like in reality, because everything's owned, everything is captured. So like the elite, the ruling class, once it falls, they're terrified of the collapse and they're trying to make it seem precipitous. But in reality, the victory of the people is ensured. And even a bad collapse, statistically speaking, most people will survive it.
And now let us remember that which or who we love, because love is the ground that gives us hope, that guides us through the hardest times, that brings us together as people of faith, that gives us a vision of the future, grounded in love. So who or what is it that you love, that you can name here with us today?
I love you all so much. I love everybody here. For real, like I love this church. I love you. For real. Like everybody, I know like sometimes I'm like, but that's just me. But like really like this, just a quick story. I cast the I Ching before I got this job. asking it whether or not I should take it, and it told me that it would be what is it, cauldron? The cauldron's like the cooking vessel for the soul, and so like it's like it said it would like be what's it called, a cauldron? I don't know. It would be like nourishing. It would like nourish the soul and like wise me up. And, like it's true. It's totally true. Like it's great church. I don't know how we don't get more people. Like
Agreed. I love you all too.
I love my cats and all cats, and I love Obamacare and all the ways that we fought to take care of each other. And I love Mardi Gras and the whole Mardi Gras season, and the fact that that has outlasted everything and will outlast everything.
Besides the obvious, my close family, my daughter, my granddaughter, I adore. I was able to spend a little time at my brother's house right after Christmas, and his kids, who are all in the 18 to 29 range, y'all, they are amazing. And they know what they want to do. They know they want to make the world a better place. They're so much more open, and it gives me great hope for our country and our world.
I love this opportunity for life. I love this opportunity for life and the opportunity for suffering, which gives us joy and pride and sorrow.
I love living in a democracy, and I'm happy that I was born in a time and a place where I could enjoy the freedoms that we have in a democracy.
I am loving the coming semester as a teacher, and I am very hopeful about the current generation and all of our generations being together.
I love our Mother Earth, despite all we've done to her. If we give her a chance, she will heal and will heal us.
Let us hold all of these in our heart as we sing together hymn number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere. Please stand in body or spirit as you are able. Please be seated. And if that didn't give you goosebumps, whew. The reading is Meditation on Broken Hearts by Thomas Rhodes. Let us enter into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Feel the earth beneath your feet as it supports you. Feel the love of this community as it surrounds and enfolds you. Feel your breath as it flows in and out of your body. Listen to your heartbeat. Listen to your heart. And how is it with your heart? Does your heart feel whole, shielded by intellect, cocooned by reason, closed to feeling? Or is it broken, fragile to the touch, brimming with the pain of loss? Has your heart been broken and healed so many times that it now lies open to the world, knowing that true growth comes not without pain, that tears may wear down barriers, that we carry the hearts of others even when our own is too heavy for us to bear? None of us has an unblemished heart, not one. For such perfection can be found only in death, and we who are alive still have much to heal. So let us give thanks for the broken places in our hearts and in our lives. For it is only through such brokenness that we may truly touch one another, and only through touching one another that the world may be healed. Let us give thanks then for the brokenness that we share. Amen.
Now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. You may write them on one of the cards being passed out by our greeters. And let's join in the hymn. You may remain seated. Number 170, We Are a Gentle, Angry People.
And we are singing, singing for our Lord. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing with our Lord. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our Lord. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our Lord. We are together. singing for our lives. We are dancing together, and we are singing for our lives. We are ships of loving peace, and we are singing for our lives. We are ships of loving peace, and we are singing for our lives.
A sorrow from Deb Lloyd that our little granddaughter has a shooter drill on a regular basis breaks my heart. Bob Ellerson, I'm happy to be here after 9 months. I was formerly in the choir a few years ago. Hey, Bob. Thank you. A joy for the gift of life. A sorrow that those friends who were murdered and taken from us at such a short time, they each had such promising futures that were stolen. From Cynthia, I have a new grandniece, Naya Adele Ramirez Cohen, named after my mother, Adela. A sorrow that Esther Posey had a lens slip in one eye, limiting her vision. The doctor said they could not do surgery. That's from Kathy. From Maryland, a sorrow that we have learned that Reverend Jacqueline's son and his family have lost their home in the California fires. Let us brainstorm what we can do to help them in these most difficult times. From Michelle, it's a joy to have Liz here this morning. So did everyone hear that? Larry said to be thankful to the community. For the food. Okay. And also from Michelle, Mary has been in the hospital due to complications from surgery. So we're sending her healing energy. Claire's sorrows for all those affected by the fires in California. And a joy I feel for the power of love in this community today. And now we will light 2 more candles, one for the joys still bubbling up, too new to share, and one for the sorrows that we cannot yet put into words. Know that we hold you in our hearts.
Well, Well, deep breath. In my years of work as a hospital chaplain, I got to know doctors and nurses and many other staff well enough that sometimes they said things to me that they may not have said to many other people. Not that long ago, and given recent world events, it could have been yesterday, I spoke in the hallway with a young Jewish doctor who I knew as a kind, sensitive, and caring man. He is married with 2 young children, and they live in uptown New Orleans, not far from Tureau Infirmary, where I worked as a chaplain. He had just come out of a patient's room, and I was standing nearby. We talked for a moment, and then he said, "You know," almost a throwaway statement, "you know, I've been thinking about buying a gun, but my wife doesn't want me to." "Wow," I said, "yeah. New Orleans crime, you have a family. Yeah, your wife doesn't want a gun in the house, but you're thinking with the crime here?" He looked at me. "Oh, it's not the crime in New Orleans that I'm worried about. It's what's happening in schools, in synagogues, neo-Nazis in the halls of the US Capitol. It's what's happening and is going to be happening more everywhere. I just heard an interview on TV last night," he said, with several older Holocaust survivors. They were saying how this all reminds them of Berlin, 1938. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. I could barely take a breath. "It seems that bad to you, huh?" "Oh, yeah," he said, nodded, shaking his head. I knew this young doctor. He is not an alarmist. He's rational, clear-thinking, well-read, politically quite liberal. And he's thinking about getting a gun to protect his family against neo-Nazis. I am stunned, saddened, bewildered, and afraid following the events of the last several years and in the last 2 weeks. It warms my heart to be with you all today. I haven't seen you for several weeks, and a lot has happened in our city, in our nation, and in the world. It warms my heart tremendously that each of you are here. You are beloved community in the New Orleans metro area, which needs you so much. There's an old Hasidic curse. Maybe it's an old Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. I used to be reminded of that curse, by the way, when I was driving home from the New Orleans airport a few years ago and would pass this huge sign. Actually, I was off to the right. Huge sign. You know that old access road from the old airport? Before you get up on the interstate, at access road, there was this huge sign that said, "Welcome to New Orleans, America's most interesting city. Mark Morial, Mayor." Interesting time. I don't think they knew the curse when they put up that sign. Interesting times. We seem to have 2 worldviews clashing in our nation right now, but they are not benign. We have a dastardly confluence of 2 huge realities that are magnifying each other into a cultural expression in our nation that is horrific and terrifying and makes young, sane men worried that the Nazis are going to come for their children. By the way, those are my grandchildren. On the one hand, we have a newly elected president who, as the January 6th Senate committee hearings revealed, without any doubt, has no moral compass, no ability to discern what equality, justice, history mean. A man who has no understanding of moral relativism, that angry Nazis in the US Capitol building and a comedy film show crew in the US Capitol building do not stand on the same moral plane. A man who will apparently stop at nothing, including violent revolution, in order to stay in power or reclaim power. The raging river that is this man endangers us all. The other raging river in this confluence is the hatred, the unblemished, organized hatred that has arisen from where it was hiding, simmering, waiting for the blessings of a leader so that it could appear unashamed against women, immigrants, Black people, trans and gay people, Muslims, Jews, and others. We have been struggling, my dear friends, aghast and frightened as these boiling rivers seem to continue to rise and destroy more and more of what we treasure as a nation every day. How are we to respond? To respond as people of faith. Let's recap just a moment who we are together here, Unitarian Universalists in Southern Louisiana. Let's take a look back at some of our history for a minute. Our history may feel mundane in this time of tumult, but it really is important to remember that we are grounded in a power movement, and our ancestors can be sources of strength for us right now. Think back a moment. One of the roots of our heritage is the privileged, white, Harvard-educated Unitarians of New England who asserted against the Trinitarians all around them that there was only one God. Those Unitarians valued human reason and preached the possibility of people working together to overcome injustice. From that root, we have grown to embrace many names for what is holy and to welcome wisdom from many sources to support us in our spiritual growth. Another strong root is the wisdom we have from the more working class Universalists, many of them country people, not as well educated as those umpty-umps in New England. They experienced and preached God as all-embracing love, love so powerful and true for each and every one of us on the face of this planet. For Universalists, no one can be left behind. For the Universalists, salvation for one is salvation for all. Justice for one is justice for all. One story from our Universalist heritage. Hosea Ballou, an early Universalist, began his ministry as a circuit riding preacher in Vermont and New Hampshire. One day, so the story goes, he encountered a Baptist preacher on the road who asked him about Universalism. Ballou spoke of the God of love that he experienced and proclaimed his belief that God would condemn no person to hell. The Baptist was amazed. If I were a Universalist, then I could steal your horse and all your possessions and not worry about eternal punishment when I die? That's right, responded Ballou. But if you were a Universalist, that thought would never cross your mind. Universalism called for a change in heart and how we are in relationship with all other human beings, and even more with the earth and all of reality. And from these roots, from these roots, we are continuing to build a faith that is ever in process. From it, we are building the beloved community. It is forever a fragile vision, incomplete, not yet accomplished, yet beckoning us, inspiring us. You and I are on that freedom train, my friends. We need not be alone in our anger, our fear, our hope, and our love. Here in Louisiana, many of us in our beloved community have been building, nurturing, creating, healing. I'm so proud that in this small yet courageously powerful congregation, so many of you are involved in peacemaking, justice-seeking movements in and around Metairie, New Orleans, and beyond. You're involved in organizing for GBLTQ rights. You're leaders in local politics, anti-racism work, building relationships that bring people together to work for the common good. You're involved in women's rights work, in education. You are making lifestyle and political choices to address the horrors of ongoing climate change, horrors that the people of Southern California are experiencing right now. In your jobs, in your neighborhoods, in your community, you are working for peace and justice and healing the planet one day at a time. And some of you have been doing so for decades. These things matter. Similarly, Unitarian Universalists across the nation have been especially helping to lead the fight for women to continue to have control over our own health choices, filling state houses with demonstrators, organizing call banks to state senators, going to court to challenge oppressive laws. With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, our work has become even more vital. As Reverend Susan Frederick Gray has said, guided by our moral values, we are prepared to be part of that ongoing struggle and continue to show up for reproductive justice in all aspects of public life. And still, my friends, there is so much for us yet to do. In these interesting times when despair is so seductive, you know it. Despair is seductive. We dare not be tempted by its siren call. Instead, we feel our roots, a heritage of working together in community to make a difference. Look around. In the 30 some odd people here, the difference you all have made and continue to make is astounding. Courage. Others have faced the mob, the flags, the torches, the threats. Courage that we draw from one another. Powerful moral values rooted in a conviction that one holiness births us all and love cradles us all. Open hearts. We refuse to hate those with whom we disagree. We may hate the action, but that's not the person. We continue to attempt to find new places for dialogue. We are ever open to new wisdom and insight and growth. And finally, conviction that there is, it's a phrase, it's not my phrase, but it's so true. Salvation in the struggle. Salvation in the struggle. We do this work to save ourselves and our children and our grandchildren, as well as everyone else we are working with and for. Several years ago, as hundreds of neo-Nazis marched in Charlottesville, dozens of Unitarian Universalist clergy went there to stand in support of the town community. Seminarian Lisa Sharon McLaren was one of them. She stood for hours in front of a line of white neo-Nazi malicious members who were reportedly instructed not to speak to press or protesters. After hours of speaking calmly, directly to the man nearest her, she began to wear him down. When she finally turned to leave to avoid increasing violence, she addressed the man one last time. I just want you to know we love you. Harper said the man's face, grizzled and tired from the day, suddenly softened. After a moment, he replied, I love you too. We live in interesting times, my friends. As one woman declared, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. I do hope and believe that we will do whatever it takes so that my Jewish doctor friend can one day feel that he does not have to buy a gun to protect his children, so that Black mothers and Black fathers can sleep at night when their adolescent children have just driven to the store, so that girls and women have the freedom to make their own health choices once again. From our Unitarian Universalist roots, we are mighty trees. You may feel like a sapling, but you're not. Your roots go deep. Trees with strong branches that will hold and fortify us. We have the heartwood of justice. We have the swaying branches of kindness that connect to all the other branches around us. We have the deep shade of caring. We have the canopy of beauty. And all of the trees that we grow are from the power of love. My friends, I do believe that with these gifts of the Spirit, together we might yet be part of the force of good, advancing justice and adding to the healing that this world needs right now. My love, my care is with you as you do what you can, as we do what we can on our own, and with those who share our passion, our courage, our vision. In the words of one of my favorite hymns, love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Amen, Ashe, blessed be, amen.
Thank you, Reverend Jane, for a much-needed inspirational message. Community Church is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online by text or in person this morning. The information on the back of your order of service is available for online giving. It's our custom to take up a collection on the second Sunday of every month for a cause our congregation and its social justice ministry support. Michelle will tell us about that now.
Good morning. This month, our second Sunday collection will go to the New Orleans New Year's Day Tragedy Fund. This is from Andy Kaplan, President and CEO of the GNO Foundation, who administers the fund. Through the New Orleans New Year's Day Tragedy Fund, we are raising money to help the families of the victims and survivors start to heal and recover from this heartbreaking tragedy. We are utilizing the tried and true avenues we use when responding to other disasters of our region. Everyone has a job in times of disaster, and ours is raising money and deploying it to the most in need. Supported by donations, the fund will serve as a resource to provide assistance to the family of those whose lives were taken and those seriously injured or impacted by this tragedy.
Please join in our offertory hymn, number 348, Guide My Feet. Number 348.
The closing words are by Jimmy Carter. My faith demands, this is not optional. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have, to try to make a difference. Please join me for the unison benediction at the bottom of your insert sheet by Adrian Rich. In the same mood as Jimmy Carter's words, let us say together, my heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been lost, so much destroyed. I must cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, constitute the world. The closing hymn is number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Please stand and embody your spirit as you are able.
Desire
Please remain standing for the chalice extinguishing.
We extinguish the chalice here that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again. Please join us for refreshment and conversation in the fellowship hall.
Do what you can, wherever you are, whenever you are.